meeting is being recorded.
Bienvenue au webinaire d'information d'aujourd'hui sur la Semaine canadienne des ODD. Je m'appelle John Beal, directeur de SDSN Canada, l'un des partenaires organisateurs de la Semaine pan-canadienne des ODD. So welcome to today's information webinar at SDG Week Canada. I am John Beal, the manager of SDSN Canada, one of the organizing partners for SDG Week Canada. So SDG Week Canada is a national collaboration from March 6th to 10th, 2023, featuring workshops, panels, and other interactive programming to increase awareness of and engagement with the 17 Sustainable Development Goals on university and college campuses. And today's webinar is a chance to help answer any questions you may have and learn from our speakers on their efforts over the past few years in organizing SDG events on their own campuses. We will record the webinar and it will be available to view on the SDG Week Canada website. La Semaine pan-canadienne des ODD est une collaboration du 6 au 10 mars 2023, comprenant une série d'ateliers, de panels et d'autres programmes interactifs visant à accroître la sensibilisation et l'engagement à l'égard des 17 objectifs de développement durable sur les campus universitaires et collèges à travers le Canada. Le webinaire d'aujourd'hui sert à répondre à toutes vos questions et d'apprendre de nos panélistes sur leurs efforts au cours des dernières années pour organiser des activités ODD sur leur propre campus. Nous enregistrerons le webinaire et il sera disponible sur le site web de la Semaine pan-canadienne des ODD. We'd like to begin the meeting by acknowledging that the SDSN Canada Secretariat operates from Waterloo, Ontario, which is situated on the Haldimand Tract, which is land promised to the Haudenosaunee of the Six Nations of the Grand River, and is the traditional territory of the Attawandaron, Anishinaabe, and Haudenosaunee peoples. We also acknowledge with respect the diverse histories and cultures of all Indigenous people of this country. And acknowledging reminds us that our great standard of living is directly related to the resources and friendship of Indigenous peoples. And we invite each of you to reflect on where your feet are planted and explore who shares that land base, its colonial history, and what transformative acts can be achieved over the coming decade towards reconciliation and justice. Nous aimerions commencer la réunion en reconnaissant que le secrétariat du SDSN Canada opère à partir de Waterloo en Ontario, qui est situé sur le Haldimand Tract, terre promise aux Haudenosaunee des Six Nations de la Rivière-Grande, et est le territoire traditionnel des peuples Attawandaron, Anishinaabe et Haudenosaunee. Nous reconnaissons également avec respect les diverses histoires et cultures de tous les peuples autochtones de ce pays. La reconnaissance est aussi un rappel que notre excellent niveau de vie est directement lié aux ressources et à l'amitié des peuples autochtones. Nous invitons chacun d'entre vous à réfléchir à où vos pieds sont plantés et à explorer qui partage cette assise territoriale, son histoire coloniale et quels actes transformateurs peuvent être accomplis au cours de la prochaine décennie vers la réconciliation et la justice. So I'm pleased to say that SDG Week Canada is a collaborative effort between many different post-secondary institutions, with Colleges and Institutes Canada, the Sustainability Hub at the University of British Columbia, and SDSN Canada as lead organizers. We're also very happy to be collaborating with the University Global Coalition to coordinate with their Global SDG Action and Awareness Week to ensure that we limit duplication and make it as easy as possible for campuses to participate in both events. In thinking through what SDG Week Canada is and what we hope it will be, we're really looking at how do we, one, raise awareness about the SDGs through interdisciplinary teaching and learning opportunities on campus, spotlighting the SDGs. Two, how do we help institutionalize the SDGs in our campus operations, in our strategic planning, in our instruction, and our research? And three, how do we create a collaborative, cross-disciplinary environment for institutions across the country to advance the SDGs? Je suis heureux de dire que la Semaine pancanadienne des ODD est un effort de collaboration entre de nombreux établissements postsecondaires, avec Collège et Institut Canada, le Centre de développement durable à l'Université de la Colombie-Britannique et SDSN Canada comme organisateurs principaux. Nous sommes également heureux de collaborer avec la Coalition mondiale des universités pour coordonner avec leur semaine d'action et de sensibilisation aux ODD, afin de nous assurer de limiter les doubles emplois et de faciliter autant que possible la participation des campus aux deux événements. Et en créant la Semaine pancanadienne des ODD, nous espérons aider à accroître la sensibilisation aux ODD par le biais de possibilités d'enseignement et de formation interdisciplinaire, de créer un élan à long terme autour des ODD en institutionnalisant les ODD dans les activités des campus, la planification stratégique, l'enseignement, l'apprentissage et la recherche, et pour créer un environnement de collaboration interdisciplinaire pour avancer les ODD. As organizers of SDG Week Canada, we're hoping to create a framework for campuses across the country to participate, to showcase the enthusiasm and the achievements of universities and colleges to achieve the SDGs. Leading up to SDG Week Canada, we will be working on creating a shared calendar of events to showcase all activities happening throughout the country, as well as create a social media campaign to help bring the conversation together online. Now, it's important to note that it's really up to each participating campus to organize their own events and activities, and we'll have no oversight for those initiatives. It's up to each of you to run activities on your campus as you see fit. We ask that you contribute to the shared calendar once your planning is underway and participate in the social media campaign during the SDG Week so we can leverage that bigger momentum. En tant d'organisateur de la Semaine pancanadienne des ODD, nous créons une occasion permettant au campus de tout le pays de participer afin de mettre en valeur l'enthousiasme et les réalisations des universités et des collèges pour atteindre les ODD. Nous créerons un calendrier d'événements partagés pour présenter toutes les activités de la semaine, ainsi qu'une campagne sur les réseaux sociaux pour aider à rassembler la conversation en ligne. Et il est important de noter qu'il appartient à chaque campus participant d'organiser ses propres événements et activités, et nous n'aurons aucun contrôle sur ces initiatives. Il appartient à chacun d'entre vous d'organiser les activités sur votre campus comme vous voudrez. Nous vous demandons de contribuer au calendrier partagé une fois votre planification a commencé et de participer à la campagne sur les réseaux sociaux pendant la semaine des ODD. In the coming months, we'll share materials to help you in your organizing, including a social media kit for promotions, a calendar of events, and a small resource hub with some teaching and learning materials. In the meantime, we'd like to encourage each of you to start planning and bringing in colleagues across your institution into the conversation and engaging with student groups. And, we see many different SDG perspectives on campus, and we feel engaging as many of them as possible in SDG Week is very beneficial. And you can also find, many of you have probably seen on our website for the SDG Week Canada, you can find one of the tabs has a list of event ideas on the website. So, and we hope that in combination with today's conversation will help inspire you in your planning. Dans les mois à venir, nous partagerons du matériel pour vous aider dans votre organisation, comprenant d'un kit de médias sociaux pour les promotions, un calendrier des événements et un petit centre de ressources avec du matériel d'enseignement et d'apprentissage. En attendant, nous aimerions encourager chacun de vous à commencer à planifier, à discuter avec vos collègues et à dialoguer avec des groupes d'étudiants. Il existe de nombreuses perspectives différentes sur les ODD sur nos campus, et nous pensons qu'une marque de succès sera d'engager autant d'entre eux que possible. Et vous pouvez trouver des idées pour les événements sur le site web de la Semaine pan-canadienne des ODD. Et nous espérons que la conversation d'aujourd'hui vous aidera à planifier. So with that, I'm happy to pass the mic to our other organizing partners, Judy Varga-Toth from Colleges and Institutes Canada, and Shamta Hunter from the Sustainability Hub at UBC. And before I hand it over, I'll just make a quick mention, a big thank you to Judy, who will be doing some high-level real-time translation in French. So we've talked with all our speakers already, but don't speak too quickly, and plan to pause every minute or so as Judy will jump in and do some higher level translation. Je suis heureux de donner la parole à nos autres partenaires organisateurs, Judy Varga-Toth de Collège et Institut Canada et Shamta Hunter à UBC. Et un grand merci à Judy qui va faire la traduction de haut niveau en français pour tous les intervenants. So Judy, over to you.
Merci beaucoup, John. J'apprécie beaucoup et bonjour tout le monde. Je m'appelle Judy et je suis une gestionnaire avec Collège et Institut Canada. Et j'aimerais commencer en reconnaissant le territoire où nous sommes et nos bureaux. SDGs est situé à Ottawa et c'est le territoire non cédé et non rendu du peuple Anishinaabe algonquin. My name is Judy, and thank you, John. I am a manager at Colleges and Institutes Canada, and I just wanted to start by acknowledging the land that our offices are located on in Ottawa, on the unceded and unsurrendered territory of the Anishinaabe Algonquin Nation. CICAN recognizes and respects the rights of all Indigenous peoples across this land, and we recognize the historical and current oppression of the lands, cultures, and original peoples in what we now know as Canada, and fervently believes that education contributes to the healing and decolonizing journey that we share together. SDGs reconnaît l'oppression présente et historique des terres, des cultures et des peuples d'origine dans ce que nous connaissons maintenant comme le Canada et croit fermement que l'éducation contribue au cheminement de guérison et de décolonisation que nous partageons ensemble. So I'll just say in the opening remarks that we've had a lot of excellent opportunities to partner with SDSN Canada. When I first started at CICAN 3.5 years ago, John was one of the first people that I spoke to because I saw that a number of our members of CICAN were members of SDSN Canada. And so I knew that they were onto something good. And we've had some incredibly positive opportunities to collaborate and work together. And this is just one other example of that. Donc, je suis très reconnaissant à John et au réseau SDSN Canada pour le travail qu'ils font pour championner les ODD au Canada et pour soutenir les membres de SICAN qui sont aussi membres de SDSN Canada. Et plusieurs d'entre vous ici ne sont pas nécessairement membres de SDSN, mais je vous conseille de l'être. C'est gratuit et c'est un réseau excellent comme celui de SICAN si vous travaillez dans les ODD. So we're just excited to support this initiative for the first ever truly pan-Canadian SDG Week, and I'm really delighted to see so many of our members present today, and we'll be hearing from one of our members that's a real SDG champion at Nova Scotia Community College. Et donc, je suis très contente de voir plusieurs de nos membres qui sont ici aujourd'hui. Et comme vous le savez, toutes et tous, SICAN vous invite à intégrer les ODD dans le travail que vous faites sur vos campus dans le développement durable. Et la Semaine pan-canadienne des ODD, ça vient juste être un autre outil qui va vous permettre de le faire. So thank you very much, John, and over to the next speaker.
Merci, Judy. Thank you. Shamta, please, from UBC.
Thank you. Thank you, John, for the great introduction, and thanks to Judy for the translations. I'm going to pause and go slow. I'm very happy to be here, first of all, and today to talk about and start our conversation across Canada around collaboration and to advance global goals. I'm joining you today from the ancestral, traditional, and unceded lands of the Musqueam and Coast Salish peoples.
Donc, merci. L'Université de la Colombie-Britannique est très contente de venir participer avec vous dans une semaine importante que eux, ils ont déjà menée à maintes reprises et elle nous a présenté le territoire sur lequel elle se trouve.
UBC has always been committed and is committed to taking action on sustainability and climate change. We declared climate emergency in 2019 and are very highly committed to working with our community at all levels, locally, nationally, and internationally to advance sustainability teaching, learning, research, and engagement. Knowing that partnership is one of the key ways to advance SDGs. And after 4 successful years of SDG Week at UBC, we wanted to take SDG action and awareness to the national levels through collaboration and partnerships. We want to advance SDGs throughout Canada and through the activism really throughout our student population on our campuses. Hence, we are very, very happy and excited to collaborate with SDSN Canada and Colleges Institutes Canada to advance our understanding and advancement of the goals by connecting, learning, unlearning, sharing with our Canadian colleagues at post-secondary institutions.
Shamta nous partage que l'Université de la Colombie-Britannique tient à cœur l'action climatique et a reconnu l'urgence de cette situation il y a 4 ans et travaille depuis très longtemps sur les actions climatiques et aussi sur les objectifs du développement durable. Et donc, depuis 4 ans, ils ont une semaine sur leur campus, une semaine des ODD. Et donc, ils sont très contents maintenant d'amener ce momentum à l'échelle du pays et trouve que c'est très important de sensibiliser tous les acteurs sur les campus et surtout d'intégrer la passion et l'intelligence et l'énergie des étudiants et des étudiantes sur nos campus dans ce travail très important.
Merci, thank you, Shamta. Thank you, Judy. I'd like to invite now Drew Cutright from the University Global Coalition to say a few words about their International SDG Action and Awareness Week, which will take place at the same time as SDG Week Canada. We work together with Drew to find that cohesiveness. And for those that are members of the University Global Coalition, it creates an opportunity to organize events and have them shared across Canada as well as internationally. So, j'aimerais inviter Drew Cutright de la Coalition mondiale des universités à dire quelques mots sur leur semaine internationale d'action et de sensibilisation aux ODD, qui aura lieu au même temps que la semaine pan-canadienne des ODD. Et pour ceux qui sont membres de UGC, cela créer une opportunité d'organiser des événements et de les faire partager à travers le Canada et à l'international. So Drew, over to you.
Okay, thank you, John. And again, thank you, Judy, for translating. Glad to be here today. I'm Drew Cutright, and I work with the Georgia Institute of Technology in Atlanta, Georgia, and also the University Global Coalition. We are excited to partner with SDG Week Canada this year as UGC's goals through SDG Action and Awareness Week and this effort are obviously working towards the same goals. UGC's SDG Week was developed in partnership with the State University of New York system, and it came from the perceived need to build more awareness of the SDGs in our university cohorts and to help people connect that awareness to actions that they can take to advance the SDGs both globally and in their local communities.
Okay, let me just take a stab at that, please. Donc, Drew nous vient des États-Unis et elle est très contente de participer et de faire un partenariat avec SDSN Canada. Elle nous dit que l'initiative globale sur les campus a commencé à l'État de New York et c'était pour faire valoir et sensibiliser les jeunes, les étudiants sur leur campus, sur les enjeux reliés aux objectifs du développement durable. Et donc, elle a vraiment hâte de collaborer avec nous ici aussi au Canada pour continuer de sensibiliser les jeunes personnes à ces défis mondiaux. Thanks.
All right. So during UGC's SDG Week, partners from around the world are asked to plan and submit SDG-related events to the UGC virtual calendar of events through an intake form. And we also encourage universities to plan events curated for their own campuses. We also share a variety of SDG-related resources on our website for learning about the SDGs, including a webinar we hosted prior to last year's SDG Week about engaging your campus around the SDGs.
Alors, elle nous invite à visiter son site web où ils ont aussi un calendrier d'événements où vous pouvez poster vos événements et ils ont aussi des ressources intéressantes qui peuvent vous aider à planifier des événements et entre autres un webinaire qu'ils ont enregistré l'année dernière avant leur semaine des ODD qui parle encore une fois des différentes façons dont on peut sensibiliser les campus sur les ODD.
All right. And briefly, in terms of how you can get involved with UGC's SDG Week, if you have an event that you would like to open up to a global audience, as John mentioned, we're going to be streamlining the process so that you only have to submit that once. If you want to get more involved in planning an event, we're also welcoming you to apply to our planning committee. The application's quite short, and I'll put that link in the chat after I'm done talking.
Alors, il y a plusieurs possibilités de partenariat avec eux. Entre autres, si ça vous intéresse d'avoir des participants à l'échelle mondiale pour certains de vos événements, ça, c'est très possible et il y aura un système qu'ils espèrent être très efficace pour pouvoir leur laisser savoir quel événement serait ouvert à des participants d'un peu partout dans le monde. Si vous voulez aller au-delà de simplement offrir des événements qui pourront être accessibles à l'échelle du monde, vous pouvez aussi participer au comité planificateur de leur alliance ou de leur collaboration globale et elle va mettre un lien dans le chat si ça vous intéresse.
Okay. And finally, I just wanted to share also in the chat our impact report from last year, which includes a list of the organizers and the focus of their events to help give some examples of the types of events that people have planned for SDG Week in the past. So I'll share those links and that is it for me. Thank you so much for having me.
Alors, elle vous remercie beaucoup de votre attention. Elle va mettre plusieurs liens dans le chat, entre autres un rapport qu'ils ont créé sur les événements qui ont déjà été offerts dans des semaines ODD antérieures, qui va pouvoir vous donner d'autres idées, vous inspirer quand vous planifiez votre propre semaine. Et elle espère pouvoir collaborer avec plusieurs d'entre vous dans ces beaux projets-là.
Thank you, Drew. We will now invite our panelists to the stage. We'll learn a bit about their experiences organizing SDG activities previously. So nous allons maintenant inviter nos panélistes sur la scène. Et elles sont Shamta Hunter, the Manager of Sustainability Student Engagement at the Sustainability Hub at UBC. Le gestionnaire de l'engagement des étudiants en développement durable at Sustainability Hub at UBC. Karen Oberer, Sustainability Officer, McGill Office of Sustainability. Responsable du développement durable, Bureau du développement durable de McGill. And Anna Jessup, Sustainability Technician at Nova Scotia Community College. Technicienne en développement durable. Collège communautaire de la Nouvelle-Écosse. So thank you all for joining us today. I have a few questions that we can go through, just kind of learning from your experience. And maybe we can start by just, tell us a little bit about what SDG Week or SDG organizing on your campus has looked like over the past few years. À quoi ressemblait l'organisation des événements pour les ODD sur votre campus ces dernières années? And maybe maybe I'll start with Karen on that one, if you want to share the McGill experience.
For sure. Thanks, John. Thanks, Judy, for translating. At McGill University, the SDG Week has been led by students, and particularly through the SDG Student Hub, which is a program that was run out of the SDSN youth offices, and also partly organized, I understand, through SDSN Canada. I'll stop there in case you want to translate that.
Oui,
Judy.
merci beaucoup. Donc, à McGill, les activités reliées aux ODD et la semaine des ODD a vraiment été menée par des étudiants. Donc, en partenariat avec SDSN Canada et leur ambassadeur ODD qui organisent ces activités-là.
And just to say that our first SDG Week happened in 2021, and it's been virtual. So all of the events so far have been virtual ones because it began during the pandemic. So many of our workshops have been, organized panel discussions and workshops. There was a movie screening at the first one, a lot of webinar presentations. So we're excited this year to be working on something a bit more in person and interactive that way.
Donc, la première semaine ODD a pris place en 2021, donc en plein milieu de la pandémie. Donc, tout a été au virtuel. Malheureusement, ils avaient eu des ateliers, des webinaires, des panels et aussi un film qu'ils ont montré, mais ils sont très contents cette année qu'ils vont pouvoir organiser des événements en personne.
Thank you, Karen. Maybe Anna, over to you. I know I think you have SDG month at Nova Scotia Community College. So tell us more about that and some of your organizing.
Yeah, I'd love to. So we're doing something a little bit different than an SDG week. We've actually dedicated the year to doing a monthly spotlight on particular SDG goals. So throughout the year, we're going to be spotlighting one goal per month from October through until June. And the way we kind of led up to this is last year we were doing a bit of a poster campaign where we had printed resources available on our campuses, alternating weeks for the goals. We also did a set of workshop series through our college, and we kind of accumulated that into what we've developed this year, where our campaign is built kind of with 3 different elements that we're moving forward with. So we're doing virtual lunch and learn sessions each month. So I suppose I should preface this by saying at NSCC, we do have 14 campuses. So our virtual lunch and learn sessions are to bring everyone together from across the college into one kind of education session where we can share ideas and learn about the goals, and also have guest speakers from the college come in and talk firsthand about what their experiences have been. Judy, I'll pause there for you.
Thank you. Donc, au Collège communautaire de la Nouvelle-Écosse, ils ont, plutôt que faire une semaine sur les ODD, ils ont décidé cette année que toute l'année va être dédiée aux ODD. Et ça, c'est parce que l'année dernière, ils ont eu beaucoup de succès avec une campagne d'affiches qu'ils ont créée pour mettre, ils ont 14 campus à travers la province. Et donc, ils avaient une campagne d'affiches ODD l'année dernière et aussi une série d'ateliers qu'ils ont offerts. Et ça a été énormément populaire. Et donc, cette année, ils ont choisi de mettre l'accent sur un ODD différent à chaque mois. Et donc, à chaque mois, ils vont créer des ressources en particulier répondant à un des ODD. Et ils vont avoir 3 activités. La première qu'elle nous a décrite, c'est des rencontres lunch and learn, si vous voulez, virtuelles, qui va pouvoir inviter les gens de tous les 14 campus à participer à ces événements-là.
Thank you. So that's one kind of element of our campaign. A second element is that we wanted to create the experience for students to actually engage on their campuses. So also creating a campus community of sustainability. So we're pairing these lunch and learn sessions with on-campus events. And the scope of those events are really different depending on the month. We've just recently completed our Responsible Production and Consumption Month, where we actually went on campuses and invited students to kind of come and watch our biannual waste audits, get involved if they wanted to. And then we're also doing things like literature features. We're running different campaigns along those lines. So that's the kind of second element. Yeah.
Yeah. So, mais en plus du virtuel, ils veulent aussi vraiment donner la chance aux étudiants de participer concrètement à des activités. Et donc, leur premier mois a été sur le ODD numéro 12, qui était sur la production et la consommation responsable. Et donc, pour ce mois-là, sur chacun des campus, ils ont invité les étudiants à participer au tri annuel de leurs déchets ou leurs matières résiduelles. Donc, à chaque année, ils le font pour vraiment faire le tri, s'assurer que les bonnes choses sont jetées aux bonnes places et sensibiliser les gens à l'importance de ces activités-là. Donc, ça a été l'activité pour le mois qui était sur l'ODD numéro 12. Et donc, à chaque mois, les activités vont dépendre de l'ODD qui a été choisi.
And then as a third kind of smaller pillar of the campaign, we're also producing sustainability boards, so kind of printed resources that we're having all over the campuses for students to kind of see that throughout the whole month and maybe tap into some of those resources. So that's just a brief overview of kind of what that campaign looks like. And we really designed it around trying to incorporate more student engagement into our community of sustainability here at SEC.
Donc, et le troisième aspect de leur campagne mensuelle, c'est beaucoup de ressources imprimées, c'est-à-dire des affiches et du matériel visuel qu'ils vont poster sur tout leur campus, qui vont interpeller les étudiants, vraiment les éduquer, les sensibiliser sur les ODD et le focus de toute leur campagne cette année, c'est vraiment l'engagement étudiante avec les ODD. Donc, toutes leurs activités sont vraiment pour et avec les étudiants cette année.
Thank you, Anna. Thanks. Shamta, over to you. I know UBC has had an SDG week, I think, for 4 years now. So tell us about what that looks like on your campus.
Yeah, that is correct, John. Similar to McGill's, I guess, to Karen, what Karen shared about the student-led initiatives, that's what it has been at UBC as well. It has been a student-led initiative specifically by the Sustainability Ambassadors Group. In the first year, which was in 2018, the idea was to bring students, staff, faculty together to reflect upon how each of their work aligns with the SDG to build community through collaboration, innovation, and empowerment. And that was done in a more round table setting. So it was a much more smaller event in that first year. In the following years, building upon the momentum from first year, the ambassadors took on a more complex task to discuss diverse perspectives, ideas, and challenges and solutions. So they brought from science to technology to public health, business, and politics, which is more focused perspectives and discussions on these areas. This took on a form of a week-long conference with various events, but each day having a focus on a special topic or an issue. Before the pandemic, all of our events were in person, and so it was great to kind of see the community coming together and celebrate the goals and share ideas and solutions. So that's what we are hoping to have this year as well, to have some hybrid events, but also have some in-person community building events to bring the staff, faculty, community members together to really learn from each other and share ideas and collaborate on solutions.
OK, alors je vais essayer de me rappeler de tout ce qu'elle avait dit. Donc, ça fait effectivement quatre années qu'ils font des semaines ODD sur le campus de l'Université de la Colombie-Britannique. Et encore une fois, c'est vraiment une initiative qui a été commencée par les étudiants et qui continue d'être mise sur place par les étudiants, surtout les étudiants qui font leur maîtrise. Et donc, la première année, ils se sont concentrés sur la sensibilisation des liens entre le travail ou les études, les diverses études et ces liens avec les ODD. Donc, c'était vraiment juste pour montrer aux gens qu'il y avait effectivement des liens entre ce qu'ils étudient ou leur travail et les ODD. Et c'était par le biais des tables rondes, des petites tables rondes de discussion dans avec plusieurs thématiques. La deuxième année, ils ont pu beaucoup élargir l'activité et donc ils ont eu une conférence qui a duré toute la semaine. Et donc, dans cette conférence-là, à chaque journée, ils ont choisi des thèmes différents qui avaient des liens avec les ODD en sciences, par exemple technologie, entrepreneuriat, politique. Et donc, ça, c'était des événements qui étaient en personne avant la pandémie, donc avec beaucoup, beaucoup d'énergie. Et cette année, ils espèrent avoir des événements qui vont être en personne, mais aussi des événements hybrides qui vont continuer le momentum sur leur campus par rapport aux ODD.
Okay, thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, Judy. So I wanted to ask, you know, do you have, in your experience in organizing these events and these SDG weeks, you know, are there one or two words of advice to others that you might have who are looking to organize something similar on their campus as part of SDG Week Canada? Avez-vous un ou deux conseils à donner aux autres qui souhaitent organiser une semaine des ODD sur le campus? You know, where do you start? How do you get buy-in from the leadership? Maybe Anna, do you want to start maybe with any thoughts, one or two words of advice?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say that you kind of can't start planning or reaching out to your participants or kind of working on your communication plan early enough. That's one thing that I kind of learned trying to pick it up really close to the start date. It does make it very difficult. So if you can front load a lot of that by getting buy-ins from the stakeholders that you want to engage come kind of that week, if that's what you're focusing on, I think that's really important. Having an idea of what your communication plan and engagement plan is going to look like when you do start to bring in students, I think is really important as well. And knowing your audience's why as to why they're going to engage with your campaign. You know, students have a very limited amount of time, so you kind of need to understand their motivation for engaging with this. In our particular case, we have kind of incentivized students to show up to these lunch and learns a little bit by putting in a $500 tuition credit. So each time a student attends a session, they get an entry into this draw, and we'll draw at the end of the year, just like an extra little incentive and motivation to have them coming out and coming back and participating. So that would be my advice.
OK, alors pour les avis ou les conseils de Anna, d'abord, c'est de commencer le plus tôt possible avec votre planification. Donc, c'est super qu'on a encore beaucoup de mois d'ici le mois de mars pour organiser votre semaine. Donc, commencez en avance et ayez des conversations avec les partenaires possibles sur votre campus, les parties prenantes, beaucoup en avance pour expliquer les objectifs de votre semaine ou de votre plan de communication. Et aussi, ayez un plan de communication qui comprend vraiment bien pourquoi est-ce que votre audience ou les participants seraient intéressés à participer. Donc, qu'est-ce qu'ils ont à gagner en participant à ces événements-là? Et en se posant cette question, ils ont pu créer un plan de communication qui pouvait livrer les messages concrets aux étudiants. Voici pourquoi vous pourriez participer, qu'est-ce que vous allez obtenir, qu'est-ce qui va vous enrichir en participant. Et en particulier, ils ont créé une façon d'incentiviser, d'encourager les étudiants à participer en offrant un prix d'un crédit de 500 $ vers les frais de scolarité de l'étudiant. Donc, chaque fois qu'un étudiant participait à un événement, leur nom était mis dans la boîte et puis à la fin de la semaine, ils ont choisi le nom d'un ou d'une étudiante qui a gagné un crédit de 500 $. Donc, ça aussi, ça a donné beaucoup d'intérêt et de momentum à leur initiative.
Merci, Judy. And Anna, maybe Karen, I'll go to you next. Do you have one or two words of advice for those looking to organize?
For sure. I mean, for me, I would say if it's just your first year doing an SDG event, it really depends on what the network looks like at your university, whether you already have a lot of people working in the SDGs. Certainly at McGill, it's been me and the SDG Student Hub for the most part. And so one of the first things I would recommend is to try to find your network, try to find other people working in the SDGs as well. At McGill, with staff, students, and faculty, we're 40,000 people. So it's kind of hard to, you have to figure out where your champions are. So once you've done that, the next thing is to really define what your objectives are for the event that you're having, as kind of related to what Anna was saying. It's good to, you want people to know why you're doing what you're doing. Like, what is the end goal of this event? Having something concrete in mind, whether it's to build a network or whether it's, it could just be a fun event to get people together after the pandemic, but having something clear, like a clear objective on it, is very helpful, I think. So that's what I would say.
Oui, alors pour Karen, la première chose, c'est de trouver les champions ODD sur votre campus, les autres départements, des enseignants, des étudiants, des groupes, des clubs qui travaillent peut-être déjà sur les ODD et de vous rassembler ensemble, hein, de ne pas essayer de le faire juste vous-même. Par exemple, elle et son petit groupe d'étudiants, c'était vraiment de trouver qui sont les autres sur le campus qui sont déjà, qui connaissent déjà les ODD et puis, désolé, et aussi de définir l'objectif de votre semaine. Donc, est-ce que c'est juste pour réunir les gens pour du plaisir après la pandémie, être ensemble et apprendre quelque chose ensemble, ou est-ce que vous avez un objectif de créer un réseau permanent ou d'autres objectifs? Donc, si vous avez un groupe ou un réseau de champions avec lesquels travailler et vous êtes clair sur l'objectif de votre semaine, vous allez avoir plus de succès.
Thank you, Karen. Shamta, please, 1 or 2 words of advice if you have.
Yeah, I'll just build on my colleagues' points here. It's finding your community, finding the right people and bringing them together. And I would say starting with identifying your key values, and that really connects to what Karen and Anna were saying about why. And that's really important because often SDG Week does require bringing multiple stakeholders together. So really identifying those common set of values that is driving your purpose is really important because it really helps you in the long term in terms of making those key decisions. Makes it much simpler and easier. And those values really drive the goals and the implementation plan as well. I do have a second one, but I'll let Judy translate this first.
Yes, I'm so sorry. I think I have an emergency I have to step away for because they just keep calling me back. So I'll be right back. Sorry.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Please do.
Okay, so I'll just add the second one, which really helped us in the first couple of years, which was really so SDG Week's big SDG framework could be a daunting framework in terms of having those 17 goals to start with. So one of the things that really helped us was really choosing that focus, the cross-cutting theme, perhaps. And that doesn't have to be 1 or 2 SDGs, although you could choose 1 or 2 to focus on, but it could also be that cross-cutting theme in terms of transformative education or Indigenous perspectives that really connects and bring that framework together for you. And if you can connect that to your universities or your unit's goals or mission, that's a bonus in terms of getting that leadership buy-in as well.
Thank you. Thanks, Shamta. I want to kind of explore the other side of this. Are there certain challenges or pitfalls that you want others to be aware of or caution in organizing? Y a-t-il des pièges ou des défis dont vous voudrez que les autres soient conscients lors de l'organisation d'une semaine des ODD? Maybe Karen, could we start with you? Anything that you've seen that just to kind of flag for people?
Yes, I would say that one of the challenges in general with doing any kind of SDG work is that a lot of the people I work with on this, it's very much side of desk work, which is a term I learned in doing this, is that you're often not, it's not often your main job to do SDG work. So you are kind of trying to fit it in wherever you can. This is why I suggest having a bigger network of people that are really into the SDGs, and students really fit that profile a lot of the time. Not to say that they have a ton of free time, but that's why it's important to engage them. So I think, that's why, again, why I suggest to start small too. And I like the idea of working on 1 or 2 SDGs, doing an event on 1 or 2 SDGs. So yeah, just to be aware of that, like if you can spread out the work, that's really important. Another thing maybe is to, I know that one of the questions you had given us, John, was on institutional support. And we were really lucky at McGill because the principal was really engaged in the SDGs. In fact, I think one of the founding members of the UGC. So we didn't really have a problem with, with upper administration being engaged, but I imagine that's another challenge that maybe the other panelists have as well, is just trying to find where that support is coming from. Maybe I'll stop there.
Thank you. Thanks, Karen. Anna, any thoughts from you on road bumps or challenges that you've anticipated or see?
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely agree with Karen in that there can be quite a lot of fatigue when you're working on a campaign, especially we were planning a year-long campaign. That's quite a big undertaking. And my first proposal, actually, I heard back a lot of, we were going to do a lot of it in our department and it was just going to be too much. So one thing we did is we reached out to other departments that may not traditionally be tagged with sustainability and kind of drew them in. And I think that's only added to the experience of the campaign. So we drew in our library services, we're drawing in our cafeterias, and we're really kind of spreading out that event work with those departments, and that's been quite a big help. So I think tying in diverse stakeholders is a great way to kind of overcome challenges around capacity and kind of fatigue. I would also say just be mindful of student schedules when you're planning events. That's one thing that I've found. Initially, when we were planning our webinar sessions, our student life department kind of told us to plan them in the evening after dinners. And our biggest issue was we weren't going to be able to get guest speakers at those times. So we kind of compromised and settled for a lunch hour event. But keep that in the back of your mind. Students aren't necessarily available when all the resources that you want to tie in might be. So yeah, keep that in the back of your mind as well.
Great, thank you. And Shanta, any thoughts to add on this?
I would definitely agree with both Karen and Anna. I mean, this is often done on the side of our desk. I think I agree, and I think that's a common situation across, unless we change the situation. I would agree that I think it's also the student, is because students are a really big part of it, ensuring that their availabilities and making sure commuter students are considered in terms of having those evening events, which are often easier being set up, but it's really hard for commuter students to attend. I mean, going back to Anna's point earlier on in terms of starting early and avoiding some of the logistics of the planning an event, having backup plans, because often the guest speakers, somebody is sick or somebody couldn't come. So having those backup plans, plan B and plan C in place, is really, really important in terms of, especially when you're working with multiple stakeholders and partners too.
Great, thank you. We're coming up, time flies. I will say our apologies for our French-speaking colleagues for not continuing in French, although here comes Judy. So I hope everything's okay, Judy.
Thank you. It's all fine.
Okay, great. Glad to hear. So I want to invite everyone. There's a couple questions that have come in the chat. I want to invite others, if they have questions, feel free to put them in the chat, or you can raise your hand, and you can be called on. And nous avons maintenant du temps pour quelques questions. Alors n'hésitez pas à les mettre dans le chat ou à utiliser la fonction de main levée pour être appelé. So maybe I see a couple in here that I could start with. And from James, around what advice do you have for the types of event that will be popular with students, faculty, and staff? Maybe I'll just leave it open if anybody wants to jump in, something right off the top.
Donc, la question, je peux traduire la question. Quel conseil avez-vous pour quel type d'événement serait peut-être le plus populaire pour étudiants, membres du corps enseignant ou les employés?
I would just say look at kind of what your local environment is around your students. I know right now what's very popular kind of in Nova Scotia is addressing issues about housing, affordability, food security, because we are having, cost of living crisis. So I know that those events have been doing really well for us right now. If there's maybe something else happening in your local environment, that might be a great thing to tap into.
Donc, sa suggestion de Anna, c'est de l'aligner avec des causes ou des thématiques qui sont maintenant qui préoccupent les gens dans votre région. Donc, par exemple, en Nouvelle-Écosse, la question de l'insécurité alimentaire, par exemple, est très importante et le coût de la vie qui augmente. Donc, des événements qui peuvent toucher sur ces thématiques-là sont très populaires à présent.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Karen, go ahead.
I was just going to pretty much echo what Anna was saying. I mean, as I said, first of all, I'll say that all of our events have been virtual, so we are hoping not to have hoping not to have a virtual event this year, because I think most of the students at least are tired of them, and a lot of the staff and faculty too. But what I was speaking with the SDG Hub coordinator, who's a student, yesterday, and he was saying his group is more interested in really, really small events, actually, things that students can do that like give them some kind of sense of empowerment. So some of the things that the hub is doing right now is working on, they're doing a workshop on how to make your own detergent, your own clothing detergent, or how to sew your own or patch your own clothes, like clothing repair. So really small things and simple things. And especially, I think, because students are so overwhelmed with coursework and things, I think doing something small like that that's practical is really popular. And hopefully, again, we'll have a chance to do it in person this year rather than do an online thing. But well, hopefully hybrid, actually, because a lot of students like that too. But at any rate, that's what I would recommend.
I think maybe Judy had to go. So Shanta, why don't you go ahead?
Sure. I was just going to say, I'm not sure if I understand James' question properly, is if he might be looking for a mixed audience of students, staff, faculty. Is that the event that he's kind of wanting to? So I'll just share two of our events in the past that we have seen a really mixed audience. One is where it was a panel event, and we had a mixture of faculty, staff, and student perspective on the SDGs and what they are working on. And that really grabs attention of all kind of different mixed audiences as well, because they get to hear their perspectives. The other one was more on the political side of things, and that goes to Anna's point of emergent issues that are really happening in your own community, so housing crisis and everything. And we brought in local mayors and politicians actively who are engaged in politics, and that was a super relevant event, very well attended, mixed again with faculty, staff, and students. So I think those emergent issues are really relevant to a lot of our community members.
Thank you. I see Drew wrote in the chat as well. Their most popular SDG Week event at Georgia Tech in the US was a sustainable food tasting put on by Campus Dining. She says both for the free food and because it was very visible outside of one of the classroom buildings and lasted for a few hours, so it allowed for drop-ins. So, I think lots of ability to be creative and engage people in different ways. So there's a question here from Sophie. If the SDGs are not yet quite commonly discussed at our campus, are the resources on introductory activities that focus on learning the basic concepts of all SDGs? So maybe I'll just add a quick comment here. One of the things that we hope to do as organizers for this is to create a small resource library for those to use. For example, a PowerPoint with all the SDGs and their targets included in it. So it's right off the shelf. You can take it and use it in the classroom if you want, or alter it as needed. So we are hoping to provide a little bit of that introductory element. I'll open it to the panelists though as well. Are there certain introductory activities that you think that you've used or that you would point to? And maybe we can also include that in our package. Maybe we'll start. Karen, anything come to mind?
Well, for our SDG Week last year, my intern Geneva, she did an introduction to the SDGs as the first event of SDG Week to kind of ground the understanding of it. And I mean, I was thinking the other thing, I haven't done this, but one other thing that could be useful is the SDG library, that's run at the SDSN has an SDG library that with all these films and things like that. And I think maybe even just having a film screening or something, you know, something really simple that's sort of low energy, low effort to put into might be, you know, might be a useful thing to use. But other than that, I don't have a lot of experience with it, you know, with introductory resources, but maybe the other two panelists, Anna, Shamta.
I'll just jump in again quickly. It's the SDG Academy, and we will definitely be sure to link. We'll have all this on the website for SDG Week Canada. We'll have a link to where you can access those videos. So trying to bring a few resources together there. Yeah, thanks, Karen. Anna, Shamta, any thoughts on that you want to share?
Yeah, last year we actually ran more of an introductory campaign where we created kind of like 2-page, really fun, graphically designed pages on each of the SDGs. We kind of had those around campus all alternating weeks, and that was a great resource to start to get people kind of seeing them and getting used to them. Another thing that we did just most recently, we had a staff conference, and I hosted really quick introductory SDG workshops, and then the participants, as they went around to the rest of the conference, each of the sessions was tagged with a particular SDG. They actually had a little passport. They got a sticker and they filled it out, and that helped make the kind of connection to like this topic and the SDG really apparent to them. So that was also a great practice as well.
Great, thank you. Shamta, yeah.
Yeah, I would just add that similar to Karen's point, in the past few years, all the SDG weeks we have started with an introduction to SDGs workshop, and we have noticed the first year we did it, it was more lecture-y, and we decided to change it up from the feedback of students. And in the past couple of years, it has been very interactive, and students really like engaging in those deep conversations around SDGs. One thing that we have also done is have nice printouts of each of the SDGs, and kind of posted them around the room, and get folks to put sticky notes and comments throughout the week. If you're using the same room, it's easier done because students coming out and they can start posting their thoughts, and people can use it as a gallery walk to start seeing what is happening on campus, what students are interested in as well. So it's a great way to build community as well. And film screenings, of course, those are really key as well.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, to all our panelists. Un grand merci. We're coming to the end of the webinar now. Thank you, everybody, for joining. You know, we're excited about the opportunity of collective impact that SDG Week Canada can bring, and hope you each feel that this is a good opportunity for your campus to mobilize around the SDGs. Nous arrivons maintenant à la fin de ce webinaire. Merci à tous d'avoir participé. Nous sommes ravis de l'opportunité d'impact collectif que la Semaine pan-canadienne des ODD peut apporter, et espérons que vous sentez chacun que c'est une bonne occasion pour votre campus de se mobiliser autour des ODD. We will be sharing more information in the coming month on the calendar of events, the social media campaign, the resource hub with teaching and learning materials. So in the meantime, while waiting for that, we encourage you to start planning, to start talking with colleagues, and start engaging with student groups around organizing. Nous partagerons plus d'informations dans le mois à venir sur le calendrier des événements, la campagne sur les réseaux sociaux et le centre de ressources avec du matériel d'enseignement et d'apprentissage. Pendant ce temps, nous vous encourageons à commencer à planifier, à parler avec des collègues et à engager des groupes d'étudiants. Thank you very much, everybody, and merci beaucoup.
Bye, everyone. Thanks.
Merci tout le monde. À la prochaine.